The year was 1861. America, a young nation founded on ideals of liberty and equality, found itself on the brink of a devastating internal conflict. The issue at the heart of this division was slavery, a deeply entrenched institution. Southern states, heavily reliant on enslaved labor for their agricultural economies, clashed with the North's growing abolitionist movement. As tensions escalated, 11 Southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. They elected Jefferson Davis as their president, a stark challenge to the authority of President Abraham Lincoln and the federal government in Washington, D.C. The South believed in states' rights and the ability to govern themselves, including the right to maintain slavery. They argued that the federal government was encroaching on their autonomy and way of life. With the secession of the Southern states, the fragile peace unraveled and the nation plunged into the abyss of civil war. A nation born of unity was now locked in a bitter struggle for survival and its very identity. The North held a significant advantage over the South industrial might. While the Southern economy relied heavily on agriculture, the North had been steadily industrializing. Factories churned out weapons, ammunition, and supplies for the Union Army at an unprecedented rate. The North's extensive railway network allowed for the swift transportation of troops and supplies, giving them a crucial logistical edge. This intricate web of railroads ensured that Union soldiers were better equipped and supplied than their Confederate counterparts. Northern factories produced everything from uniforms and boots to cannons and rifles. This industrial strength proved to be a decisive factor in the North's ability to sustain a long and costly war. The Confederacy, with its limited industrial capacity, struggled to keep pace. Southern factories were smaller and less equipped than their northern counterparts, and the lack of a robust railroad system hampered their ability to move goods effectively. The Civil War was a complex and bloody conflict, marked by numerous battles that would shape the course of the nation. The war, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, saw the Union and the Confederacy locked in a brutal struggle for supremacy. Each side had its own strategies and tactics, but it was the North's ability to adapt and evolve that ultimately led to its success. The North's military strategies evolved as the war progressed, adapting to the challenges of fighting a determined enemy. Initially, the Union's approach was somewhat disjointed, with various generals implementing their own plans. However, as the war dragged on, a more cohesive strategy began to take shape. The Anaconda Plan, devised by General Winfield Scott, aimed to suffocate the South by blockading its ports and controlling the Mississippi River. One key turning point was the Battle of Antietam in 1862. This battle, fought in Maryland, was one of the first major engagements on Northern soil. The Union forces, led by General George McClellan, clashed with General Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army in a fierce and bloody confrontation. This bloody clash, the single bloodiest day in American history, ended in a tactical draw, but proved to be a strategic victory for the Union. The battle resulted in over 22,000 casualties, a staggering number that shocked the nation. Despite the high cost, the Union's ability to halt Lee's advance was a significant morale booster for the North. It halted the Confederacy's advance into the North and gave Lincoln the opportunity to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. This landmark document, which declared the freedom of all slaves in Confederate-held territory, added a moral imperative to the Union's war effort and discouraged European powers from supporting the Confederacy. Another pivotal moment came with the capture of Vicksburg, Mississippi in 1863. The Siege of Vicksburg, led by General Ulysses S. Grant, was a masterful display of military strategy and perseverance. The Union forces encircled the city, cutting off supplies and bombarding it relentlessly. This victory gave the Union control of the Mississippi River, effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. The fall of Vicksburg, coupled with the Union victory at Gettysburg, marked a turning point in the war. The Confederacy was now divided, and its ability to move troops and supplies across the river was severely hampered. By controlling this vital waterway, the North could control trade and transportation routes, further weakening the South's ability to wage war. The Union's naval blockade, combined with its control of the Mississippi, choked off the Confederacy's access to essential goods and resources. The North's military successes were not solely due to industrial superiority. While the Union's industrial base provided a significant advantage in terms of weapons, supplies, and transportation, it was the effective use of these resources that made the difference. The North's ability to mobilize and sustain a large fighting force was crucial to its success. Union generals, though not without their flaws, gradually adopted more effective tactics and strategies. Leaders like Grant, Sherman, and Sheridan understood the importance of total war and the need to break the South's will to fight. Their relentless campaigns, aimed at destroying Confederate armies and infrastructure, eventually wore down the Southern resistance. They recognized the importance of targeting the Confederacy's infrastructure and economic resources, aiming to cripple their ability to sustain the war effort. By destroying railways, factories, and supply lines, the Union forces systematically dismantled the South's capacity to continue the fight. This strategy of total war, though brutal, was instrumental in bringing the conflict to a close. Section 4. Lincoln's Leadership, Guiding the Nation Through Stormy Seas. Abraham Lincoln's leadership proved to be a decisive factor in the North's victory. His ability to navigate the complexities of the Civil War, while maintaining a clear vision for the future of the United States, was nothing short of extraordinary. Lincoln's strategic decisions, from military appointments to his handling of political pressures, showcased his adeptness in leadership during one of the most tumultuous times in American history. Lincoln, a man of unwavering resolve and deep compassion, held the Union together during its darkest hour. His personal letters and speeches reveal a leader who was deeply committed to the principles of democracy and human rights. Despite facing immense criticism and personal loss, Lincoln's determination never wavered. He was a beacon of hope and stability for a nation in turmoil. His eloquence, both in public speeches and private correspondence, rallied the North to the cause of preserving the Union. Lincoln's words had the power to inspire and mobilize people from all walks of life. His speeches, such as the Gettysburg Address and his second inaugural address, are still studied today for their rhetorical brilliance and profound messages. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued on January 1, 1863, was a watershed moment in the war. This bold move by Lincoln not only aimed to weaken the Confederacy, but also to redefine the moral purpose of the war. By making the abolition of slavery a central goal, Lincoln transformed the conflict into a crusade for human freedom and dignity. This executive order declared that all slaves held in Confederate territory were to be freed. Although it did not immediately free all enslaved people, it was a crucial step towards the eventual abolition of slavery in the United States. The proclamation also allowed African Americans to join the Union Army, adding much-needed manpower to the Northern war effort. While its immediate impact was limited, the proclamation had profound moral and strategic implications. It signaled a shift in the Union's war aims and provided a moral high ground that galvanized support for the Union cause. The proclamation also had a significant psychological impact on the Confederacy, undermining their labor force and morale. It turned the war into a fight not just for the preservation of the Union, but also for the liberation of enslaved people. This dual purpose gave the Union cause a new sense of urgency and righteousness. The proclamation inspired countless enslaved people to seek freedom and join the fight against their oppressors, further bolstering the Union's efforts. This galvanized support for the Union cause both domestically and internationally, making it increasingly difficult for European powers to support the Confederacy. The moral clarity provided by the Emancipation Proclamation resonated across the globe, influencing public opinion and diplomatic relations. European nations, particularly those with strong abolitionist movements, found it harder to justify any support for the Confederate cause. Lincoln's unwavering commitment to the principles of liberty and equality, embodied in his Gettysburg Address, continues to inspire generations. Delivered during the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, this brief but powerful speech redefined the purpose of the war and the meaning of American democracy. Lincoln's words, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people," have become a timeless reminder of the nation's democratic ideals. He understood that the war was not just about preserving a nation, but about defining what kind of nation it would be. Lincoln's vision extended beyond the immediate conflict to the future of the United States. He believed in a nation where freedom and equality were not just ideals but realities for all its citizens. His leadership during the Civil War set the stage for the country's ongoing struggle to live up to those principles. Section 5. The Atlantic Wall, Blockades and the Confederacy's Struggle. The Union's control of the seas played a crucial role in strangling the Confederacy's war effort. With a superior naval force, the Union was able to implement a comprehensive blockade strategy that aimed to suffocate the Southern economy and war capabilities. The North's superior navy imposed a blockade on Southern ports, effectively cutting off the Confederacy's ability to trade with the outside world. This blockade was not just a physical barrier, but a strategic move to isolate the South from international support and resources. This blockade, known as the Anaconda Plan, tightened its grip over time, severely limiting the South's access to essential goods, weapons, and supplies. The plan was named for its intention to constrict the Confederacy much like an anaconda snake would squeeze its prey. The Confederacy, heavily reliant on cotton exports to finance the war, found its economy crippled by the blockade. Cotton, often referred to as King Cotton, was the South's primary economic driver, and without the ability to export it, the Southern states faced severe financial difficulties. The blockade also prevented the Confederacy from securing foreign aid. Southern diplomats worked tirelessly to gain support from European powers, but the Union's naval dominance made it difficult for any substantial aid to reach the southern shores. European nations, though sympathetic to the South, were reluctant to challenge the Union's naval dominance. The risk of entering a conflict with the Union Navy was too great, and thus, European intervention remained limited to diplomatic gestures rather than tangible support. This effectively isolated the Confederacy, forcing them to fight a war of attrition with dwindling resources. Confederate soldiers often faced shortages of food, ammunition, and medical supplies, which severely impacted their ability to sustain prolonged military campaigns. The South's efforts to break the blockade, including the use of blockade runners and experimental submarines, proved largely ineffective. While some blockade runners managed to slip through, the overall impact was minimal, and the Union Navy's control remained largely unchallenged. The Union's control of the seas tightened its grip, slowly suffocating the Confederacy's ability to sustain a prolonged conflict. The blockade's success was a testament to the Union's strategic planning and naval superiority, which played a pivotal role in the eventual downfall of the Confederacy.